Welcome to Something to Talk About from the Bainbridge Island Senior Community Center. We're glad to have you here today. My name's Reed Price, and I'll be talking with Charlie Browne, who is very active in the AARP Tax Support Program. And we're going to talk about Tax-Aide today on Something to Talk About. I do want to start by thanking Fieldstone Communities of Bainbridge Island for sponsoring these programs. Fieldstone offers independent living, assisted living, and memory care up on Rolling Bay. They have a beautiful campus up there. They also offer day stay and respite care programs. If you'd like to learn more, you're welcome to call 206 594 1010. You can check out their website at fieldstonecommunities.com. And if you call that number and ask Celia or Jamie, they'd love to arrange for a tour and treat you to a free meal, lunch or dinner. So just call 206 594 1010. So this is a wonderful program. We were just saying before we went online here, Charles, a wonderful program that every year a bunch of folks such as yourself volunteer to be ready and able to help people with what for some is the very intimidating task of filling out their taxes. So can you tell us a little bit about how the program works and how you prepare for it?
Sure thing, Reed. We've been doing this program here on Bainbridge Island for quite a number of years. Denise, who is also on this call, I think has been on the program for more than 20 years. So it's an active program. It's a program that I think I can safely say we all enjoy doing. AARP Tax-Aide is really a program that was developed by the AARP Foundation in conjunction with the Internal Revenue Service, the IRS. And so the volunteers, and we're all volunteers in this program, that do taxes for the public, we are all trained on the IRS programs. We're certified by the IRS as competent to do taxes. And we have to do this certification and pass the IRS certification test each year. It's not a one-time thing that's good for life. Each year, the tax laws change somewhat. And so we have to be, or the IRS, and I think the public that we serve needs to be assured that we are trained and competent to do these taxes. We have about between 8 and 10 volunteers here on Bainbridge, and we do this program each year. The last year and this year, we are doing it at the library in the main conference room. Our program, we work 4 days a week. We work Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturday. And the public can contact us and they can make a reservation on any of those days starting on February 1. And we go all the way through the end of the tax season. So it's a program that we have. We used to do what we call walk-ins. In other words, people would just show up and they would sit and wait until a counselor was free and could do their taxes. We've moved now after COVID, well, actually during COVID as well, to what we call a reservation system. So we have a system where anyone can make a reservation for one of the available time slots. And once they've made the reservation, they find out what documents, tax documents they need to bring, what kind of identification and whatnot. And then there's also a booklet that they need to fill out prior to coming in. They then bring all of this material, and at their reserved time slot, one of us will sit down with them, conduct an interview, and do their taxes. I think one of the best things about this program is that it's, well, of course, with no financial obligation to any one of the people that we do taxes for. It's free, completely free. It's confidential. There are a lot of news stories these days about people hacking into systems and stealing confidential information, personal information, and whatnot. The IRS takes a very strong view on security and what we have to do at every one of the sites where we prepare taxes. And so there is virtually, with the systems that we have in place and the protections that we have in place, there's virtually no way that anyone's personal information can be exposed or taken from. And one of the nice things about the Bainbridge Library is that we can space ourselves out to where the taxpayer whose taxes are being done are assured of some privacy, that there's not someone looking over our shoulders and peering at the screens, the computer screens, or anything like that. We have a lot of space, and we are very mindful of the need to maintain security. So we do taxes for the public, which means that virtually anyone that has a normal tax situation, they're eligible and they can come in. This is not just for elderly or low-income people, although we are very happy to see elderly and low-income people to come in, but it's not limited to that. We have college kids that show up and need their taxes done because they have a summer job or something like that, and they had tax withheld, and they can get that tax withheld back by coming and having their taxes done. We have middle income people. There are some forms of taxes that we cannot do. And for example, if someone has rental property, they have an apartment or a second home that they rent out, we cannot deal with those because they have depreciation and all kinds of other complicated situations that we don't deal with. We do handle a lot of self-employment, but if the person who is self-employed runs their own business, has employees, for example, we cannot handle that. Or if the person who runs their own business has losses in the business, then we won't deal with that either. So that there are some, what I would consider to be minor constraints that the vast majority of people who want to have their taxes done, we're able to help them with it. And we will let anyone know very quickly whether or not they are within what we call the scope of what we're allowed to do.
Now, Charlie,
Yes.
when I was thinking about the fact that you're doing this at the library, and so I went on the library website to try to figure out where to register and how that works. And it's kind of buried on the website if you're trying to find information, but it sounds like the way that you would like people to register is by phone. Is that right?
Well, there are two ways. The primary way is by phone, yes. And I believe, or at least I've been told, that the phone number that we will use this year is the same phone number that we used last year, which is 206-866-8255. 5629. And Denise is there, and I'm sure she'll pipe up if that's not the case.
But the screen lit up.
Pardon?
Yeah, my number is five. I think we got a reverse figure there. At least looking at the tax aid list on the KRL, it says 8665269.
Oh, it came on. It came on.
So I don't know. Does that sound? We'll have to.
That's
We'll try to confirm that before this call is over.
okay, yes. It could be that I had asked the person who takes all of these phone calls coming in and does the scheduling. And that's the phone number that I was giving, the 5629, the last four digits, but I won't guarantee that that's correct. And if it is not, then we will let your listeners know.
Well, you were saying that there are two ways. So what's the other way?
The other way is you can go to the AARP website, and you can, once the scheduling system is live and working, you can actually reserve a time slot online. Now, we don't have very many people that go through this, that the vast majority of people that we deal with as far as a time slot reservation, they prefer to do it by phone because they can talk to our volunteer, and she will explain which slots are available, what days are available, and she's got all that information right at her fingertips. So it's a lot easier than trying to reserve online and then finding out that no, that time slot isn't available and whatnot.
Charlie, the number is 5269.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
Thank you, Denise.
yep.
Okay, and that's what it says on the library. And I was just checking the IRS website there. You go on I'm sorry, the AARP website, and you go on that website and you can see that you can schedule dates and times at the Bainbridge Island Main Library,
Exactly.
reserve an appointment, and then there's that phone number again, 206-866-5269.
5269.
Excellent.
So those are the two ways. You can use the computer and go through AARP, or you can use the phone number that we've repeated a couple times and gotten right the last couple times we've done so.
Yes.
And although, as you said, it's a program that's has a focus, AARP has a focus on people of low income and 50 or older. It's free to anyone who wants to, provided that you have a tax return of the type that you folks can handle. Which I think is, a wonderful sort of way to respond to people, whoever they are, and I appreciate that because although you might be a teenager, as you said, who's trying to figure out taxes for the first time. And the list of the
Exactly.
documents you said are available in advance. You get those during the phone call,
Yes,
and
exactly.
and you can also find that information, which is listed on the AARP website as well. So
If I could say,
How do they
Reed,
get how do the paperwork come to us, Charlie?
pardon?
How do we get
paperwork.
paperwork?
Can you
Well,
pick up
you can pick up
materials
the
at the library?
booklet at the library, and that's the booklet that you need to fill out ahead of time. But the main thing that you need to do is bring in photo identification, because we have to be sure that the person for whom we are preparing taxes is the person who's sitting in front of us. So you have to have the identification, and you have to be able to then provide us with the tax documents. In other words, you just can't say, well, my wages were around $30,000. No, we have to have the tax document. In this case, if it were wages, it would be a W-2 form. We have to see that document and be able to enter the data into the IRS tax program.
And Sheila,
Oh.
the forms, those intake forms are not available right now at the library. They're coming in next week, I think.
Thanks, Denise.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and as as I also mentioned, you can get a preview of some of those things. You're going to need to obviously have your individual taxpayer ID, like your Social Security number. We mentioned W-2 forms, but you might have income in some other way. Say you're getting money from an IRA, you'd want to have your 1099-R form. So you kind of have to go through what those potential forms are, and then if you're looking to consider deductions, you need some representation of that as well, right, Charlie?
Correct, correct.
So, go
Usually
ahead.
people are on the deduction side. I won't say that people use a shoebox, but usually they collect receipts of whatever donations, for example, to their church or to a charity, um, tax information on property tax they've paid and things like that. They collect those through the year, and usually they're pretty good on bringing that stuff in. Sometimes one of the forms that is late coming in, if someone has an investment account with a brokerage, they have to be careful that they have, and Reed, you quoted these, the 1099 forms, and this would be a 1099-B or a brokerage form. That would have all of the interest, dividends, and transactions that took place in that account. And some firms are late. It may be late February before those actually show up. So we've unfortunately had to ask people to go home and wait until they get the form or call up their brokerage account and see if they can get it expedited.
How much,
Yeah, go ahead, Sheila.
yeah, you're talking about deductions. How much as far as deductions do you need to have before it makes a difference?
Well, it depends on which category, whether you're a single
All right,
tax.
a church donation.
Well, again, it depends on which category you're in. If you're a single taxpayer, the level of donations you have to have before it becomes valuable or before you can really use it versus a standard deduction is I'd have to look up the exact numbers, but let's say it's 19,000 or something like that. So, but that includes deductions for property tax, charitable donations, and everything else. Truthfully, though, Sheila, we have very few taxpayers today that it's beneficial to them to use donations versus the standard deduction. The vast majority of the people we deal with use the standard deduction rather than calculating the deductions for what they actually did.
Thank you, Charlie.
That's over the last few years, we've seen an increase in the standard deduction and made it more difficult to try to use the itemized deductions. Are there any other things that come up often or that are challenges sometimes when you're working with folks that it's maybe worth mentioning here at the beginning of the season?
Well, I think one of the things that sometimes is a little bit problematic. You mentioned the Social Security cards. Uh, a lot of people still have their original Social Security cards, but a lot of people show up. Sometimes we have to have Social Security cards for everybody that's on the tax form. So if they have children, for example, if they need to bring Social Security cards for the children as well as themselves. Um, and so sometimes that's not, I guess, crystal clear to them, I would say. Um, a lot of times it is, but we've run into cases where people say, oh, geez, I can't find that thing. I know I saw it 6 months ago, but I don't carry it with me. I don't use it, and I don't have it. What do I do? Well, we can't do the return without a tax identification, positive tax identification. And so people usually are able to find it, or they can get a duplicate from the Social Security Administration. But I know it's frustrating to anyone who shows up and says, well, I'm me, and I know my Social Security number, and this is what it is. But that's generally not sufficient.
So there's a good idea of something that you want to sort of get your hands on and kind of get organized before you make the appointment, or certainly before you
Yes,
show up.
yes.
And does the activity, how does it work in terms of timing? I show up with my materials, I sit down with a counselor at my appointed time. We go
Uh,
over what materials are there. Maybe I've got everything. Let's say I have everything and I don't have to go home and get anything else. What happens then?
Then you're sitting down with a counselor, a certified counselor, and we prepare the taxes. One important thing about our program is that we use what is called a quality review system. In other words, one counselor will prepare the taxes. We will go over it, the prepared taxes with the taxpayer, and they will see what we've come up with. Then that same information is passed to a second counselor who then goes through the same process again. The purpose being to see if anything has been left out, uh, a typo made, just like that phone number earlier in the phone call. If a typo has been made transposing a digit or whatever, then that quality review is almost guaranteed to pick it up. So we really do the tax return twice. Um, and so the taxpayer, before they come in, should feel assured that we are going to uh, do it and have it checked. And then after the quality reviewer finishes the return, we file immediately with the IRS. So that tax return we know is sent to the IRS generally while the taxpayer is in the room, and if not, it'll be 5 or 10 minutes later.
It's an amazing response time.
Yes, it's quick, and I think people uh, are assured that they're going to get their refund if they're due a refund as quickly as possible that
Okay.
way.
Well, and the other thing that you're here helping with so many folks who have tax anxiety is they know then it is done.
Yes, yes. And actually, that's one of the things, Reed, that makes it enjoyable for all of us who are doing these returns. Taxes can be stressful, they can be frustrating, they can create anxiety, but to see people's faces of relief once the process is over and they're finished, and hopefully the bill is less than what they had worried about, then it makes us feel good. And we get a lot of compliments and thanks from the people that we do taxes for. And it's the motivation that keeps us going each year.
Thank you very much for your volunteer work. Are there any other questions for Charlie about the program? If not, I'll remind you that it runs from February the 1st through April the 12th, and I think that people are able to actually sign up right now, as of today, by calling 206-866-5269. We got that number right. 206-866-5269. And as Charlie said, they're meeting folks on Tuesdays and Fridays, Thursdays and Saturdays. So that's the plan. And thank you for stopping by and talking to us about that today.
Thanks, Charlie. Thanks,
Uh,
Keith.
Thanks to all of you. You guys do wonderful work at the Senior Center, I have to say.